Hello everyone, this is Lisa with Old Orchid Yarnery. I'm here to demonstrate to you the next section in our Building with Lace class. We are going to move on to section 4, which is the lace and cable section. Let me just show you where we're at so far. Here was our very first section. Second section here. Third section should be the one you've just finished with those wrap stitches in the middle. And now the fourth section, the cables and lace, is going to look like this. I've completed 2 repeats of it. We're going to do a total of 4 repeats. So let me just demonstrate that to you. The cables are, it's a 12-row repeat, and the cables happen on rows 1 and 7. The rest of the rows in between are fairly straightforward. I think you'll find that this isn't too difficult of a pattern to do. Shouldn't prove to be terribly challenging. There's a couple things you can watch out for, but I will help you with that. So, because we have this nice garter border that we're maintaining at the edge of our project, every first 5 stitches are handled the same way in a row. We slip the first one with the yarn in front, knit the next 4, and I have a little marker here to remind me that that's that first section. And so now we're going to start on our repeats. Now this is an 8-stitch repeat, so I have my markers placed every 8 stitches all the way across the row. But the first section and the last section have 10 stitches because there's a 2-stitch border that starts before every repeat of 8 stitches. So don't do like I did. Always remember to knit those first 2 stitches and then go to your pattern. A couple times I got to the marker here in the first section and I was off, and I realized I had forgotten to knit those first 2 stitches. So don't do that. All right, a little drink of water, and now let's carry on. So if you look at your pattern, again, as always, it's written instructions and charted instructions. You can follow whichever one you like. We're going to talk a little bit about cable needles. So there are a few different types you can use. This is a J-style cable needle. Comes like this in a package of 3 sizes. This is the smallest one because this is a fairly thin yarn I'm using. I usually like to use this style. I find that I can just throw it to the front or the back and it holds onto my stitches and I don't have to worry about it. Some people like to use this kind of a cable needle. These are bamboo, and they have a little slight indentation in the center that can help to hold your yarn. Again, they come in different sizes, so depending on the yarn you're using, you can use the appropriate one. Some newer ones that I got in the shop not too long ago are these spiral cable needles. They come in a set of 2. There's gold and silver color, and they're kind of fun. I really like them. I've been using them a lot lately just to try them out, and I really enjoy them. So I'm going to demonstrate with that to start off with. So we are going to start our repeat with row 1. So if you notice, it says knit 2, or if you look on your chart, there's 2 stitches before that red line that starts your repeat, and now we start our repeat. The repeat itself also starts with a knit 2, which I think is how I got into trouble forgetting it a couple times. And now we're going to knit 2 together, yarn over, and then do a cable 4 front. Now sometimes cables will be referred to in patterns as left or right. Sometimes they will be referred to as front or back. They're really the same thing. It's just I prefer front and back because it helps me to not have to try to think about, okay, is a cable right where I hold it to the front or the back? Sometimes I have to look that up and work my head a little harder to try to remember. So I like the wording here in this pattern, cable 4 front. That means it's going to be worked over 4 stitches. We're going to take the first 2, put them on a cable needle, hold them in the front of the work, knit the next 2 stitches, and then knit the ones that we held on to. I'll show you what that looks like. Now you want to be sure not to lose this yarn over that happens right before the cable. So I'll show you how I make sure that doesn't happen. I've done my yarn over, and now I'm going to take the next 2 stitches, which are the first 2 for the cable 4 front, and I'm going to put them on this cable needle. Hang on, let me get the right angle here. On the cable needle, and then I just let that hold in front for me. Now I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches, but here's where I'm going to make sure I still have my yarn over. I don't want to lose it. Could have very easily just fallen off, and then I wouldn't have that yarn over. So I'm going to now make sure I have it. I'm going to knit these next 2 stitches. And now I will take the 2 stitches hanging out on the cable needle, put them back on my left needle, and now I'm going to knit them. Now it's going to feel a little tight here because their stitches are twisted, but that's all a cable is you're working stitches out of order to create the texture and the design. So don't worry about it. Just go ahead and get in there and knit those 2. And now I'm at the end of my repeat, so I have my marker. So my next repeat, go back to the asterisk or the red line on your chart if you're using it. I'm going to knit two together, yarn over, and cable 4 front. So again, I'm going to get my cable needle. I'm going to pull the next 2 stitches off, let it hang out in front, make sure my yarn over is still there, knit the next 2, put these back on, and knit them. Now the pattern book talks about a method of doing cables without a cable needle. I've tried that before. It's not my preference. I'd rather just use the tools I have, and it doesn't bother me to pull the cable needle out and use it. It's up to you. There is a video link in your book if you want to try to look at that and see what that looks like to cable without a cable needle. With a cable of just 4 stitches, you could probably do it if you want to. Like I said, I just choose not to. All right, so let me demonstrate this next repeat English style. We're just going to do that same 8-stitch repeat all the way across. So we're going to knit 2, we're going to knit 2 together, then we're going to yarn over. So there's the yarn over, and now we're going to do our cable 4 front. So just like before in Continental, this isn't any different here. We're just going to pull the stitches off. Notice I'm pulling them off purlwise. I'm not twisting them. I'm just inserting and slipping them to this needle, letting it hang out in front. Keep making sure I maintain my yarn over there. I'm going to now knit the next 2 stitches. And then I'm going to put the stitches back on. Again, I don't want them twisted. I'm just going to put them back on exactly the way I took them off. So just slide that right through and then knit them like this. So that's all there is to it with row 1. You're just going to complete that repeat all the way across. Knit 2 together, yarn over, cable 4 front. Knit 2 together, yarn over, cable 4 front. The things to watch out for on this row are that you don't lose that yarn over before your cable 4 front, that you don't forget the first knit 2 in the first section before you start the repeat, which again starts with a knit 2, so that might feel a little confusing there. Don't worry about it. Just read the directions and follow along. When you get to the very end, you're also going to have an extra 2 stitches in the last section, so you'll do your knit 2 together, yarn over, cable 4 front, and then you'll still have 2 more stitches left. That is correct. The directions, the written instructions say you repeat from the asterisk to the last 2 stitches and then you knit 2. On the chart, you'll see that your repeat ends with that red line, and then there's still 2 more knit stitches. And then, of course, as always, you will knit the last 5 of the garter edge. So that is row 1. I'm going to finish the row and then we'll be back to continue. Okay, I've gotten to the end of row 1, and I want to tell you that if you're short a stitch on any of your sections that you find, it's very likely that you dropped that yarn over. So it's not a bad idea, especially after row 1, because there's that danger of dropping that yarn over, just to give a quick count. Make sure you have 8 stitches between all of your markers. Now I've left one out here on purpose in this section. I only have 7 stitches here, and I'm going to show you how to fix that on the next row so that you don't have to rip back. But it's not a bad idea to just give it a little look and make sure that you've got 8 stitches at every one, especially after row 1, because it's more problematic to drop that yarn over here. It'd be easier to do. So we're going to turn and start row 2. Now row 2 and all the wrong side rows are all going to be the same. You're going to slip the first stitch with the yarn in front, knit your first garter edge stitches, then you're just going to purl all the way across till the last 5 stitches. So let's go ahead and just get started, and then I want to show you how to fix that dropped yarn over. So I'm going to slip with the yarn in front. I'm going to knit the next 4 to my marker. This would be a time you could count 2 as well if you didn't do it at the end of the row. There should be 10 stitches here in this first section because we have those 2 edge stitches on either end. I know that's correct, so I'm just going to go ahead and purl all these stitches to the next marker. And then the next section is where I've left that yarn over out on purpose so that I can show you. a way to just reclaim that yarn over without having to tear back or tink or panic, because there's no need for that, right? It's all knitting. We like it. It's yarn. We don't need to panic. Okay, so now I get to this section. If I were to count, there should be 8, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm missing one. So I know that I'm missing a yarn over. And where I'm missing that yarn over is going to be right before the cable. So the cable 4 front was these last 4 stitches that I did on the other side. You see they're kind of twisted there. So this is where my yarn over should be, is right here, after those 4 stitches of the cable and before the rest of the stitches in the section. So it should be right there. So I'm going to go ahead and purl 4. Now you have yarn overs in other rows that you could lose, and you could still fix them the same way. You just have to examine and see where it needs to go so that the eyelets line up properly. But you can use this in any project if you forget a yarn over, as long as you're on the next row. All right, so I've purled the 4. Now this is where my yarn over should be, and there's not one. You see how I can even tell there's no loose yarn over here for me to knit. The next stitch is just a regular stitch that I would purl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bar, and do you see this bar of yarn that's just floating down there? The closest one to my needle. I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to put it on my needle. Now I've put it in from front to back. So I've picked up the bar with my right needle and put my left needle on it. So there's my yarn over. And let me show you in the next section how the yarn over looks, and you'll see. Let's see if I can show you this clearly. All right, on the next section, here's the 4 stitches, and here's that yarn over. And you see how it goes from front to back, right to left? So we just want to get the yarn over put back on that direction. And so that's what we've done by picking it up and then inserting that left needle, and it's now going front to back, right to left. So now all I have to do is purl it. So I've now recaptured that yarn over in the place where it belonged, and I have that eyelet down below that I'm supposed to have. If not, I would not have that eyelet and my lace would be off. And then a couple rows from now, I'd be thinking, well, why am I off? Why are there only 7 stitches there? So that's how you can reclaim it. All right, so row 2 and all wrong side rows, which are all the even numbers, you're just maintaining your garter edge with that first slip stitch at the front and back, beginning and into your row, I mean, and then you're just purling all the way across. So we're going to do that, and when I come back in a minute, we'll look at row 3. All right, I've just finished row 2, now I'm back to do row 3. So we are going to start again with our slipping with the slip first stitch with the yarn in front, knit the next 4 to maintain that garter edge, slip my marker, and now I'm going to look at the directions or the chart for row 3 and start with knit 2, and then you'll see an asterisk or the red line, and that means your repeat begins. So there's those 2 border stitches that are going to be in this section. That gives us 10 stitches in the first section instead of 8. And then the next stitch is with our repeat beginning is going to be a knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 5. And you'll see in this sequence that the yarn over isn't as easy to lose as it was in row 1 before the cable was executed. Doesn't mean you won't forget it, but it's just not as easy to lose. So knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 5. And we're just going to complete that all the way across the row. Now if you've placed your markers every 8 stitches, then when you get to the end of that knit 5, you should be a marker. You'll know you're on, so you know that that section is correct. Let me just show you English style. We're going to knit 2, hello, knit 2, then we're going to knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 5. Three, 4, and Oops. Okay, I've apparently done something wrong. I have 8. All right, let me back this up, see what I did. And I guess I'll just leave this in there. I probably won't edit it out. We'll just let it be. I just want to show you what to do if you get to the end and you don't have the right number of stitches. All right, 2. Oh, because it's knit 1, knit 2 together. You were probably all yelling at the screen beforehand, weren't you? All right. There we go, no problem. We'll just back it out. Okay. Now, knit 1, knit 2 together. But you know what? That's a good reason for having those markers every 8 stitches, because you know when you're off right away. Knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, get down there, and 5. And there's my marker. That's how it should be. Let's do it one more time so I can do it correctly. All right, knit 1, follow your pattern, everybody. Knit 2, don't go rogue like I did. It will not end well. Yarn over, knit 5. If your goal is to have an end result that looks like the pattern, then good idea to follow it, right? If your goal is to freestyle it, then you go right ahead. 4 and 5. So that's what you're going to do all the way across this row. Knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 5. And then the last 2 stitches, of course, down here, you're going to have 2 left, so you'll knit 2, then you'll knit the last 5 to maintain your garter border here. The next several rows are 4, then will be a wrong side row, so you will just purl all the way across except for your garter edges. 5 is going to be very similar to 3 in just that it's knitting and knit 2 together and yarn over. You just have the numbers are slightly different because you're offsetting that yarn over, so it's over 1. And then row 7, we're going to have another cable. So go ahead and work all the way through the end of row 6 and then come back and I will demonstrate row 7. All right, here we are back at row 7. Hopefully you didn't have any trouble with rows 4, 5, 6, and 7. They're pretty straightforward. So row 7 is going to be our next row that has cables on it. And we are going to have the cable 4 back instead of the cable 4 front. So we're going to start our row, as always, slipping the first stitch, yarn in front, knitting the X4 to the marker, going to slip this marker, and then we're going to look at our pattern, either the written instructions or the chart. Don't forget the first 2 stitches, row 7. In the words, it says knit 2, and down on the chart, before the red line that starts your repeat, there's 2 plain white boxes, which indicate 2 knits. So we're going to knit 2, and now we're going to start right off with a cable 4 back. So you're going to find on this row that you could possibly lose your markers because you're starting with a cable, so just be mindful of that. For this one, I'm going to use this J-hook style cable. So cable 4 back. Again, it's worked over 4 stitches. We're going to put 2 on the cable needle, put them in the back this time, knit the next 2, and then put the next 2, the 2 we were holding, back on the needle and knit them. So I'll show you what that looks like. So we're going to go 2 on the cable needle, put them to the back, knit the next 2, and I'm going to pull that up, and I want to make sure they're not twisted, and I'm just going to put them back on my needle the same way I took them off. And now I'm going to knit them. And so you see how they're behind these other 2 stitches? Again, it feels a little awkward because they're twisted, but that's the point of a cable. They're supposed to be. So there's the cable 4 back. Now we're going to do a yarn over, SSK, so slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit. Insert your left needle tip into the front of those stitches and knit them. That's a slip, slip, knit. And now knit 2. And if you've done it right, you should now be at your next marker. So here's my next marker, and I'm going to start this 8 stitch sequence with the cable 4 back. So as I pull these 2 stitches off to put on my cable needle and slide to the back, just be mindful of your marker so you don't lose it. And then we're going to knit the next two. In just a moment, I will show you English style, and then we're going to put these back up here, making sure they're not twisted, to put them back on my needle and knit them. So there's the cable 4 back, yarn over, SSK. So once again, slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, insert the left needle tip into the front, knit them together, and knit 2. We're going to repeat that all the way across the row again. So I will show you now English style. Get some yarn out here for me. All right, so we're going to start with the cable 4 back. Again, I'm going to be mindful of this marker here so I don't lose it. I'm going to take these 2 stitches off. Just slip them to the back, let them hang out. And now I'm going to knit them. I'm going to make sure to not let this wrap around my cable needle. I don't need to knit my cable needle into my work. So we're going to knit these 2. And now I'm just going to pull that back up and put the stitches back on my left needle. And now I'm going to knit them. And that completes the cable 4 back. Remember that you have to work all 4 of those stitches before you've completed the cable 4 back, and you can move on to the next item in the list. Then we're going to yarn over, so we'll go ahead and yarn over, and then a slip, slip, knit. So slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, insert the needle tip into the front of those 2 stitches. Now notice when I did my yarn over, I left the yarn in front, because now as I reach around to knit those 2 stitches, it completes my yarn over right there. And then knit 2. Do that one more time. Slip my marker, cable 4 back. So we're gonna put the next 2 stitches, the first 2 stitches in this 8 stitch repeat on my cable needle, let it fall to the back. Then I'm gonna knit these next 2 stitches, being mindful that my yarn is not wrapping around my cable needle. Bring those 2 stitches back up, put them back on my left needle. Now some people have a method with cables that they like to use a different type of cable needle so that they can then knit those stitches right off the cable needle, and it takes away the step of having to put them back on your left needle. Again, that's just not my preference, but it is a great way to do it, and if that's what you like, then please do that. One of the good things about knitting is that there's several ways to do things, and as long as you end up with the right result, you can do it the way that you like to do it. So that completes the cable 4 back. And now we're going to yarn over. So again, I'm just wrapping my yarn around and I'm leaving it in the front. And now I'm going to do a slip, slip, knit. So slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, insert the tip into the front of those stitches. And now here's my yarn in front. And as I reach around to knit them, it completes that yarn over. And knit 2. So that is it. You've now seen the cable 4 front in row 1, the cable 4 back in row 7, both English and Continental style. You'll see if you look at the rest of the pattern, again, it's a 12-row repeat, all the wrong side rows, even numbers, you knit the garter edges and you purl everything in between. And then row 9, it's just, again, a combination of knitting 5, yarn over, SSK, knit 1, all the way across. Row 10 is going to be knit your garter edge and purl all the way across. Row 11, knit 2, then knit 6, yarn over, SSK. So you're knitting 5 before the yarn over in row 9 and 6 before the yarn over in row 11 so that that yarn over can shift. And let me just show you here. Hang on, I'm going to lose that marker. I'll just set it there. So we're providing this shift. In the first rows, from rows 1 to 6, those knit 2 togethers and yarn overs are shifting, and that's creating this section here that angles to the right, because your yarn over is getting closer to the beginning of the row every time, right? Yes, that's correct. So, because in row 1, you're knitting 2, knit 2 together, yarn over. Row 3, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over. Knit 5, knit 2 together, yarn over. So that yarn over is getting closer to the beginning of the section every time. So that's how it causes it to lean to the right with those eyelets. And now in rows 7 through 12, you're doing the opposite on the other side with SSKs instead of knit 2 togethers, but your yarn overs are getting further away from the beginning. Example, in row 7, it's cable 4 back yarn over. Then in row 9, knit 5 yarn over. Row 11, knit 6 yarn over. So that's going to create these eyelets that are leaning to the left. So that's how we get this nice pattern in between. And there's our cable crossings in between each one. It's just beautiful. So go ahead and finish that. You're going to do all 12 rows. You're going to repeat that 4 times. And then you'll have your top border, as is indicated in your book, where you just have 8 rows of knit, and that gives you this nice garter ridge, 4 garter ridge section in between. And then you'll be ready for the next section. So section 5 that we're going to do in July involves beads. So if you haven't gotten your beads yet already, please be sure to do that. Read in the book. You'll see the type of beads you need and the size. And then next month we'll be talking about different ways to apply those beads to your knitting. Okay? All right. Have fun. Happy knitting. I will look forward to seeing you and your projects. Bye-bye.